The world stood still for a moment as headlines flashed across screens in bold, unrelenting type. Prince Harry deported. Visa revoked after drug admission. It was the kind of news that didn't just shock. It sent ripples of disbelief across continents. For years, Harry and Meghan had been the glamorous exiles, the ones who dared to break from tradition and carve out a glittering life in California. But in the blink of an eye, that dream was ripped apart, and all eyes turned to Meghan Markle, not with admiration, but with apprehension. What she did next would leave even her most loyal supporters gasping. In Montecito, the palatial mansion Harry and Meghan called home was eerily silent except for the flurry of footsteps and muffled voices of staff trying to manage the growing chaos. Paparazzi swarmed the gates like vultures sensing a carcass, their camera lenses trained on every flicker of movement. And inside those walls, Meghan Markle, once the picture of poise, was reportedly pacing the marble floors, her fury barely contained. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. They've made their move. Now it's my turn, she was overheard saying to a confidant over the phone, her voice icy and deliberate. Just 48 hours earlier, the couple had been spotted at a charity gala in Los Angeles, smiling for photographers and appearing every bit the power couple. But behind the smiles, something darker had been brewing, a storm neither seemed prepared for. Harry's candid admissions in his memoir, Spare, about experimenting with substances in his youth, had sat quietly in the background for months. But now, U.S. immigration officials had pounced, citing those very confessions as grounds to revoke his visa. As Harry was escorted to a private jet bound for London, the cameras caught a single haunting image. The Duke of Sussex, head bowed, shoulders slumped, his hand gripping the strap of his backpack as though it was his last tether to the life he was leaving behind. Meghan was nowhere to be seen. Insiders claim she refused to accompany him to the airport. She's furious, one source close to the couple shared. Furious at the U.S. government, furious at Harry for putting them in this position, and furious at everyone who she thinks conspired to make this happen. But Meghan's anger didn't end with slammed doors and whispered threats. Within hours of Harry's plane lifting off, she took to social media with a cryptic message. If they think they can silence me, they're in for a rude awakening. Receipts don't lie. The post sent shockwaves through both the American political establishment and the British royal circles. What did she mean by receipts? Was Meghan hinting at confidential information, secrets she had gathered during her rise from actress to duchess to global celebrity? Some believe Meghan had long kept a cache of damaging material, emails, recordings, private conversations stored away as her ultimate insurance policy. Now, it seemed, she was threatening to use it. She's playing with fire, warned one political commentator on a primetime news broadcast. If Meghan Markle really has the kind of evidence she claims, she could destabilize not just the royal family but political alliances as well. The question is, how far is she willing to go? Others saw it differently. To her staunch supporters, Meghan was finally fighting back against a system that had cornered her from the start. She's been bullied, silenced, and painted as the villain, said one fan on Twitter. If she's got dirt on the people who wronged her, why shouldn't she expose them? Yet beneath the public outrage and fervent defenses, a darker question lurked. Was Meghan's move an act of strength or a sign of desperation? Reports from Montecito suggest that Meghan has contacted high-profile journalists and media outlets, offering a tell-all interview where, sources claim, she plans to name names and set the record straight. Some allege she even reached out to former friends in political circles, sending veiled warnings about what she might reveal. Meanwhile, the White House has refused to comment on the growing controversy. When pressed by reporters, a spokesperson merely said, "We do not discuss the visa status of private individuals." But Meghan's allies are spinning a very different narrative. They're afraid of her, one anonymous source told a tabloid. They know she's got receipts on powerful figures. She's been at private parties, high-level events, and she's seen and heard more than anyone realizes. If she goes nuclear, it won't just be Harry and Meghan in the headlines, it'll be world leaders too. Across the Atlantic, the mood is no less tense. In London, Prince William is said to be livid, reportedly blaming Meghan for the escalating drama. King Charles, according to palace aides, is quietly urging calm, but behind closed doors, he's preparing for the possibility that Harry's return to the UK could spark another royal crisis. In the midst of all this turmoil, Harry himself remains silent. Sources claim he is devastated and feels betrayed by everyone, including the country he once considered his sanctuary. Alone in Frogmore Cottage, with no clear path back to his California life, Harry is said to be contemplating his next move. Back in Montecito, Meghan's team is reportedly working around the clock to manage the fallout. But some say she's beyond PR spin now. She doesn't care about optics anymore, an insider claims. This is personal. This is war. And so, the world waits. Waits to see if Meghan Markle will follow through on her threat to expose secrets that could shake governments and bring down reputations. Waits to see if Harry will remain silent or speak out against the wife he once defended at all costs. Waits to see how far this modern fairy tale will spiral before it ends in either redemption or ruin. Because when power, love, and revenge collide on a global stage, the fallout is never simple. And in this case, it may be catastrophic. The news broke like a thunderclap, shaking both sides of the Atlantic and sending social media into a tailspin. Prince Harry deported. U.S. visa revoked over drug confession, screamed one headline, while another blared, Meghan Markle left alone in Montecito as Harry forced back to UK. In a world accustomed to shocking royal dramas, this felt different. This wasn't just gossip or family squabbles. This was international. This was personal. And for Meghan Markle, it was war. At first, the details were murky. News outlets scrambled to verify the claims. Commentators speculated endlessly. Was this really about Harry's memoir? Or was there something deeper, something more sinister? In his tell-all book, Harry admitted to experimenting with cocaine, cannabis, and psychedelic mushrooms in his younger years, an attempt to paint himself as a flawed but relatable figure. But now, those words had come back to haunt him in the worst possible way. U.S. immigration law, as experts pointed out, was clear. Any foreign national who admitted to illegal drug use could have their visa revoked. Across Los Angeles, TV stations cut into regular programming to cover the developing story. Helicopters hovered over Santa Barbara County, zooming in on Montecito's tree-lined streets. Reporters stationed themselves outside the gates of the Sussex's sprawling mansion, hoping for even a glimpse of the embattled Duchess. One paparazzo described the scene as chaotic, like vultures circling a wounded animal. Inside the mansion, the atmosphere was reportedly even more volatile. According to a source who claims to have spoken with staff, Meghan Markle erupted in fury the moment she learned the visa had been revoked. She smashed her phone on the floor, the source alleged. She kept saying, "They can't do this to him. They can't do this to us." But the U.S. government had done precisely that. Harry's legal team had been notified 2 weeks earlier, though they fought tooth and nail to keep the matter quiet, hoping for a private resolution. Their appeals failed. On a cool July morning, Harry was informed he had 72 hours to leave U.S. soil. Witnesses described Harry as devastated but resigned as he boarded a private jet at Santa Barbara Airport. There were no grand goodbyes, no airport hugs or tears from Meghan. In fact, she didn't even appear at the airstrip. Instead, Harry traveled alone with only a small security detail, clutching a leather satchel and staring blankly out the window as photographers captured every moment. He looked like a broken man, one bystander recalled. He wasn't the confident Harry we've seen in interviews. It was like all the fight had gone out of him. Meanwhile, Meghan was already plotting her next move. As news outlets clamored for a statement, she posted a cryptic message to her Instagram stories. "Silence is not an option when the stakes are this high. I warn them. I warn them all. Receipts don't lie." The post sparked an instant firestorm. What did she mean by receipts? Was Meghan referring to evidence she had collected over the years? Emails, recordings, private conversations with political figures? Or was this a bluff, a desperate attempt to claw back control as her carefully curated world fell apart? Political analysts were quick to weigh in. On one popular news segment, a former White House advisor cautioned viewers, if Meghan Markle has any incriminating material on U.S. political figures, she could unleash chaos on a scale we haven't seen in years. But threatening the government publicly? That's a dangerous game. Some believe Meghan had always been meticulous in protecting herself, keeping records of high-profile interactions during her rise from Hollywood actress to Duchess. One tabloid claimed she had encrypted files saved to cloud storage and a USB drive locked in a Montecito safe. Others dismissed the rumors as conspiratorial nonsense. Yet even those closest to Meghan began whispering about her state of mind. "She feels betrayed by everyone," said a former friend. "She thinks this is a coordinated attack, not just against Harry, but against her." She believes powerful people want to see her silenced. Back in London, the royal family's response was muted but telling. A terse statement from Buckingham Palace read, "We are aware of the reports concerning the Duke of Sussex. This is a private matter." But behind the scenes, insiders claimed William was quietly relieved, and Charles saw Harry's return as an opportunity for reconciliation. Whether Harry felt the same remained to be seen. At the heart of this storm stood Meghan Markle, staring down an uncertain future. For years, she had been vilified by segments of the press, accused of manipulating Harry and tearing him from his family. Now, with Harry gone and her position in America crumbling, she was reportedly preparing for a scorched-earth response. According to unconfirmed reports, Meghan has been in contact with major television networks about a potential tell-all interview, one she promises will change everything. She has also allegedly reached out to high-powered lawyers and political allies, hinting she possesses information that could shake governments to their core. In Montecito, neighbors reported seeing unfamiliar vehicles coming and going from the Sussexes' estate. Some speculated it was security reinforcement. Others believed it was a rotating parade of advisors and PR strategists trying to contain the fallout. But the question on everyone's lips is simple. Will Meghan really go through with her threat? And if she does, what will be the cost, not just for her and Harry, but for the institutions and individuals she's targeting? The stakes have never been higher. Harry's deportation is no longer just a family crisis or a celebrity scandal. It's a geopolitical flashpoint, a royal soap opera turned potential national security threat. And Meghan Markle, for better or worse, is holding the detonator. Because when love and ambition clash with power and politics, the fallout is rarely contained. And the world is watching, waiting for Meghan's next move. When Prince Harry released his memoir Spare, he likely believed he was offering the world an unflinching look into his private struggles. It was meant to be an honest account, a humanizing confession from a man born into unimaginable privilege but shaped by unimaginable pain. Instead, those same raw admissions became the catalyst for the most devastating chapter of his life. At the time of publication, Harry's openness about his experimentation with drugs was seen by many as a rare act of candor. He spoke of smoking cannabis in his teenage years to numb grief, of dabbling with cocaine during wild nights in London clubs, and even using psychedelic mushrooms at celebrity parties in Los Angeles. In interviews, he defended these confessions as part of his journey to self-awareness, insisting it was about escaping, about trying to feel something different. "I wasn't proud of it, but I wanted to tell the truth." The book sold millions of copies. Critics hailed it as groundbreaking. Detractors mocked it as self-indulgent. But buried among the tabloid headlines and TV soundbites was a grim reality. Those admissions were now in the public domain, and U.S. immigration law doesn't forget. Experts later revealed what Harry, or perhaps his advisors, should have known all along. Under U.S. law, any foreign national who admits to illegal drug use, even in their past, can be denied entry or have their visa revoked. While enforcement of this policy has often been inconsistent, Harry's profile made him an easy target. For months, the admissions went unnoticed by immigration authorities. The Sussexes continued their lives in California, signing Netflix deals, launching charitable initiatives, and raising Archie and Lilibet in what seemed to be a sunlit sanctuary far from royal protocols. But behind the scenes, legal storm clouds were gathering. In March, according to sources close to U.S. immigration, a watchdog group filed a complaint against Harry, arguing that he had received preferential treatment by being allowed to live in the United States despite admitting to past drug use. The group demanded a formal review of his visa status, triggering a quiet investigation. At first, Harry's legal team appeared confident. They thought they could fight this, said one insider. They assumed his profile, his philanthropic work, and his marriage to an American citizen would protect him. They underestimated how determined some people were to see him punished. By late June, it became clear the fight was lost. The Department of Homeland Security informed Harry's attorneys that his visa was being revoked and that he had 72 hours to leave U.S. soil. The news was reportedly delivered to Harry on a sunny California morning. Meghan was out of the house, attending a private lunch meeting in Los Angeles. When she returned and found Harry slumped in an armchair, clutching the official notice in trembling hands, an argument erupted that shook the quiet streets of Montecito. She was livid, a source familiar with the household claimed. She blamed Harry for being too honest in his book. She kept asking him why he couldn't have just left that part out. It wasn't about drugs anymore. It was about their whole life falling apart. Harry, for his part, tried to stay calm, insisting he had no regrets about telling his truth. But his voice reportedly cracked as he told Meghan, "This is my past coming back to punish us. I never wanted it to touch you or the kids." The argument escalated until Meghan retreated to her bedroom, slamming the door behind her. Hours later, she emerged with her phone in hand, scrolling furiously through contacts. According to insiders, this was when she began contacting lawyers and media consultants, setting the wheels in motion for what she described to one friend as the ultimate counterattack. Meanwhile, Harry faced the unbearable task of explaining the situation to his children. Archie, now old enough to sense tension in the household, asked why Daddy had to go on a long trip. Harry reportedly broke down in tears, hugging his son tightly and whispering, "I'll be back soon, I promise." But even as Harry prepared to leave, Meghan was already shifting her focus outward. To her, this wasn't just a personal betrayal, it was political. She sees this as an attack on her family and her reputation, said a source in her inner circle. She's convinced there are forces in Washington, London, and even Hollywood that want her silenced. And she's not going down without a fight. Meghan's first salvo came in the form of a cryptic Instagram post. "Silence only protects the oppressors. Receipts coming soon." Within minutes, the post had been screenshotted, shared, and analyzed across the globe. Was Meghan threatening to expose secrets about U.S. political figures? Had she overheard conversations at the glittering parties she and Harry attended in their early days in California? Some speculated she might have information about donors, politicians, or even members of the British establishment. Others dismissed her post as a bluff, a desperate attempt to maintain relevance as her carefully constructed world crumbled. "She's bluffing," said one royal commentator on a British morning show. If Meghan really had dirt on world leaders, why wouldn't she have used it before now? This is classic Meghan, dramatic and self-serving. But not everyone was so sure. One American journalist, who had interviewed Meghan in 2021, hinted that the Duchess had been privy to conversations she shouldn't have heard during her time mingling with the global elite. "She's been in rooms where power brokers talk casually, forgetting who's listening," the journalist said. If she kept receipts, as she claims, there could be very real consequences. Back at the Montecito mansion, preparations for Harry's departure were underway. Security teams coordinated with airport staff to ensure the media circus didn't spiral into chaos. Yet as Harry hugged his children one last time and climbed into a black SUV bound for Santa Barbara Airport, Meghan was notably absent. "She refused to go with him," said one observer. She said she couldn't bear to watch him leave like that. Instead, Meghan reportedly spent those hours on calls with advisors, strategizing her next move. "They can't take him and expect me to stay quiet," she told one confidant. "They've underestimated me for the last time." As Harry's jet lifted off, leaving behind the California coast and heading east across the Atlantic, Meghan sat alone in her Montecito kitchen, her phone buzzing with messages from allies and enemies alike. She had a decision to make, one that could either salvage her family's future or plunge them into irreversible ruin. The world was already holding its breath. Would Meghan Markle release her so-called receipts and ignite a political firestorm? Or was this all part of a larger strategy to pressure the U.S. government into reversing its decision? One thing was certain, the next move belonged to her, and it could change everything. The hours after Harry's departure were described by insiders as some of the most turbulent in Montecito since the Sussexes first moved into their sprawling California estate. Meghan Markle, usually known for her carefully curated public image and controlled composure, was no longer the elegant Duchess smiling for cameras or delivering impassioned speeches about empowerment. According to people close to the situation, she was something entirely different now, an unpredictable storm brewing behind closed doors, her rage threatening to consume everything in its path. The first sign came when Meghan summoned her most trusted aides to the mansion shortly after Harry's flight took off. Witnesses claim she paced back and forth in the grand kitchen, her bare feet slapping against the cool marble floor, her phone clutched tightly in one hand. "They think they can do this to me? To us?" she reportedly demanded, her voice sharp enough to cut through the tension in the room. The staff, already shaken by the recent developments, exchanged uneasy glances. Meghan wasn't simply upset. She was seething. She kept saying this wasn't just about Harry's visa, one insider later revealed. She said this was a coordinated effort to humiliate them both, to drive them out of America and destroy her reputation in the process. In Meghan's mind, Harry's deportation wasn't a matter of bureaucratic red tape. It was an act of war, and her response would have to be equally devastating. An aide suggested releasing a carefully worded public statement expressing Meghan's heartbreak over the situation and appealing for privacy during this difficult time. Meghan's reaction to that suggestion was explosive. "Privacy? That's what they want me to ask for so they can erase us quietly," she snapped, according to the source. "I've been quiet for too long. No more." She ordered her team to draw up a list of all the high-profile individuals she and Harry had encountered since their move to America: politicians, CEOs, Hollywood producers, media executives. "Everyone who ever sat at my table or invited me to theirs," she reportedly instructed. "If they think they're untouchable, they're about to find out they're not." Within hours, Meghan had sent out a series of encrypted messages to confidants in her inner circle. Some of these individuals, sources claim, were former staffers from her time at Kensington Palace. Others were American socialites and power players she had befriended in California. Each message was short but ominous. "It's time. They'll regret coming for us." Then came the social media post that sent shockwaves across the globe. A simple black background with white text appeared on Meghan's official Instagram account. "I warned them. Receipts don't lie." The cryptic nature of the message only fueled speculation. Was Meghan threatening to expose private conversations, hidden alliances, and off-the-record comments from her time rubbing shoulders with global elites? Had she kept secret recordings or emails as an insurance policy? Within minutes, hashtags like #MeghanReceipts, #RoyalBombshell, and #Markle vs. America began trending worldwide. Political commentators on cable news were quick to interpret the post as a veiled threat aimed at the U.S. government. "This isn't subtle," said one host. "Meghan Markle is signaling that if she's pushed any further, she'll push back in ways that could damage careers, reputations, maybe even governments." But not everyone was convinced. Critics dismissed Meghan's message as empty bluster from a woman cornered and desperate to regain control of the narrative. "She's bluffing," said a British tabloid editor during a live panel discussion. "If she had anything real, she'd have used it long ago." Yet people close to Meghan insisted otherwise. One former Hollywood associate recalled an offhand comment Meghan had made during a dinner party 2 years prior. She said, "You never know who's listening, and it's always smart to keep receipts," the associate claimed. "At the time, I thought it was just her being cautious. Now I'm not so sure." As Meghan's cryptic post spread across the internet, her mansion in Montecito became a hive of frantic activity. Advisors and publicists shuffled in and out, their faces grim as they whispered strategies and damage control measures. Security was tightened around the property, unfamiliar vehicles with tinted windows parked along the secluded driveway. One neighbor reported seeing Meghan standing on her balcony late that night, her hair pulled back in a tight bun, staring out at the horizon as though weighing the consequences of her next move. "She looked like a woman ready to burn it all down," the neighbor said. Meanwhile, Harry's absence loomed large in the house. For the first time since their marriage, Meghan was truly alone in America, no husband, no royal title to protect her, and a growing chorus of critics calling for her to leave the country entirely. But if Meghan was afraid, she didn't show it. Instead, she doubled down. At a private dinner with two of her closest friends the following evening, she reportedly said, "They've taken Harry from me, but they won't take my voice. If I have to bring down every last one of them to get him back, I will." Later that night, Meghan placed a call to an influential television producer she'd worked with during her Suits days. "I want to talk," she told him. "Not a puff piece. The truth. All of it." The producer, who spoke under condition of anonymity, later said he had never heard Meghan sound so determined and so dangerous. "She's not asking for help," he explained. "She's issuing a warning." And so, with Harry thousands of miles away in London and the world watching her every move, Meghan Markle began to prepare for what insiders are calling her most explosive act yet. Would she really release damaging information about U.S. political figures and royal insiders? Was this her way of forcing the government's hand to reverse Harry's deportation? Or was Meghan simply lashing out, willing to set fire to every bridge she'd ever crossed? One thing was certain, for Meghan Markle, there was no turning back. The sprawling Montecito mansion, once a symbol of Harry and Meghan's hard-won freedom, felt like a gilded cage as the reality of their new crisis settled in. Behind its tall gates and perfectly manicured lawns, chaos was quietly consuming the Sussex household. With Harry now on British soil, deported after losing his fight to remain in the United States, Meghan Markle was left alone, furious, and spiraling between anger and desperation. According to insiders close to the couple, The hours following Harry's departure were marked by an unsettling mix of silence and shouting, a sharp contrast to the polished, serene life they had worked so hard to project. The staff, accustomed to the couple's occasional arguments, knew instantly that this was different. This was deeper. This was dangerous. In the grand living room, Meghan reportedly sat cross-legged on the oversized cream sofa, a laptop perched on her knees, scrolling furiously through messages and news updates. The silence of the room was interrupted only by the occasional ping of incoming emails and the muffled hum of voices outside as her team of advisors huddled on the terrace. She hasn't slept properly in days, a source who spoke under condition of anonymity revealed. She's been glued to her phone and laptop, calling contacts at all hours. It's like she's building a war room. The tension inside the house was so thick it seemed to press against the walls. Staffers whispered in corridors, exchanging worried looks as Meghan moved briskly from room to room, her expression hard and unreadable. Gone was the Meghan who charmed audiences with her warm smile and carefully chosen words. In her place was a woman some described as terrifyingly focused. She blames Harry for this, one aide said, but not in the way people might think. It's not that she hates him. She's furious at the system that punished him for telling his truth. And she thinks the people behind this want her silence too. Behind closed doors, the Sussex marriage was under immense strain. Before Harry left for London, sources claimed, there had been a heated argument in the kitchen that staff tried desperately to pretend they hadn't overheard. Meghan's voice reportedly rose first. "You should have listened when I told you not to put that in the book," she shouted. Harry, his face pale, replied in a strained whisper, "It's my life, Meghan. I wasn't going to lie about it." "That honesty has cost us everything," she fired back. "Do you even realize what they're doing? They've taken our future, our family, and you just let it happen." According to those present, Harry's shoulders slumped as he rubbed his hands over his face. "What do you want me to do? I can't fight them from here." "You should have thought about that before you handed them the ammunition," Meghan retorted before storming out, leaving Harry alone with his thoughts and the ticking clock counting down to his departure. But even after Harry's jet lifted off and disappeared into the horizon, Meghan's anger didn't fade, it deepened. Left alone in the mansion, she began making a series of calls that startled even her closest advisors. One of her first calls, sources say, was to a high-profile attorney known for representing celebrities in disputes with government agencies. "I want options," Meghan reportedly said, her tone clipped. "Not platitudes. Options." Next came calls to select media contacts. "She's trying to control the narrative," a publicist familiar with the situation explained. "She doesn't want to look like the abandoned wife. She wants to be seen as the woman standing up to injustice." But it wasn't just lawyers and journalists Meghan was reaching out to. According to one former friend, Meghan also contacted several powerful acquaintances from her time in Hollywood and Washington, people with influence, people who owed her favors. "She's warning them," the friend claimed. "She's letting them know she remembers things they've said and done. She's hinting she won't hesitate to go public if she feels betrayed." The implications of these calls sent shivers through elite circles. What exactly did Meghan know? And how much damage could she do if pushed too far? Meanwhile, Meghan's team of advisors worked frantically to manage the growing media frenzy. But Meghan herself appeared less concerned with damage control and more focused on retaliation. "She's not thinking like a duchess anymore," said one insider. "She's thinking like a survivor. She feels cornered, and cornered people lash out." The emotional toll on Meghan was undeniable. Neighbors reported seeing her walking alone in the garden late at night, her phone pressed to her ear, speaking in hushed, urgent tones. Her once bright eyes now looked heavy and tired, the weight of her predicament etched into every line of her face. "She looked haunted," one neighbor observed, "like someone fighting invisible enemies." In quieter moments, Meghan reportedly expressed fear that Harry wouldn't be allowed back into the U.S. anytime soon. She worried about how to explain his absence to Archie and Lilibet. She kept saying, "How do I tell the children their father isn't coming home?" one confidant shared. But those moments of vulnerability were fleeting. More often, Meghan's anger flared, driving her to make bold, some say reckless, decisions. She began drafting a speech for a possible television appearance, a no-holds-barred address in which she would set the record straight and name names. "She feels she has nothing to lose," said a media insider approached about hosting the interview. "If she goes ahead with this, it won't just be a bombshell. It'll be nuclear." The question lingering in every corner of the Sussex household, and indeed across the world, was chillingly simple. Would Meghan really do it? Would she unleash secrets capable of shaking governments, destroying reputations, and igniting a political firestorm? Behind closed doors, the answer seemed clearer by the hour. She's past the point of no return, an advisor whispered. And if anyone underestimates her now, they're making a grave mistake. As Meghan stood alone in the quiet mansion, staring out at the California hills bathed in moonlight, she whispered to herself words only she could hear. Words that carried the weight of both defiance and despair. They won't win. I won't let them. In London, the news of Harry's deportation hit Buckingham Palace like an earthquake. For years, the royal family had watched from afar as Harry and Meghan carved out their lives across the Atlantic, first with quiet unease, then with outright frustration. But this development, the sudden, very public removal of Harry from the United States, presented an entirely new kind of crisis. Behind the palace gates, senior courtiers and advisors scrambled to draft statements and assess the potential fallout. Unlike previous scandals, this wasn't merely a family feud spilling into the tabloids. This was an international incident, touching on immigration laws, political sensitivities, and now the possibility of Meghan Markle publicly airing secrets that could damage both royal and governmental reputations. King Charles III, sitting in his private study at Clarence House, was among the first to be briefed. An aide described the monarch's expression as a mixture of weariness and deep concern. His Majesty has been through a lifetime of royal scandals, the aide later confided. But this felt different. It wasn't just about Harry anymore. It was about the monarchy's stability in an increasingly unpredictable world. Charles reportedly paused for a long time after hearing the details, his fingers steepled beneath his chin. And Meghan, he finally asked, his voice low and deliberate. She's made threats, the aide replied cautiously. Social media posts suggesting she has information. Charles exhaled sharply, a sound more like a sigh than a breath. God help us all if she means it. Across town, Prince William received the news while attending a meeting at Kensington Palace. Unlike his father, William's reaction was swift and emotional. Sources claim he slammed his fist on the table, startling those present. He's dragged us into this again, William reportedly fumed. And now she's holding the entire system to ransom. To those around him, William's anger was layered, not just at Harry for his actions, but at the fragile state of the family he had spent years trying to protect. William feels like he's been fighting fires ever since Harry left, a royal correspondent explained. Now, with Meghan threatening to expose secrets, he's more protective of the institution than ever before. Privately, William's wife, Catherine, Princess of Wales, urged caution. She reminded her husband that Harry was still his brother and that an aggressive response could only escalate tensions further. This family has broken apart once already, she reportedly told William. Don't let it burn completely to the ground. But as the palace grappled with its internal turmoil, the media frenzy outside intensified. British tabloids pounced on the story with relish, plastering front pages with headlines like, Deported Duke, Harry back in Britain amid Meghan meltdown, and Markle threatens to take down royals, Washington in explosive rant. On talk shows, royal commentators debated endlessly. Was Harry's return a chance for reconciliation? Or was it the spark that could ignite the royal family's destruction? In a surprising move, the palace released an official statement the next morning. The Duke of Sussex has returned to the United Kingdom following the expiration of his visa. His Majesty the King asks for privacy as the family navigates this matter. No further comment will be issued at this time. The statement was brief, calculated, and utterly devoid of emotion. But insiders say it belied the panic simmering behind closed doors. There's fear that Meghan could make good on her threat to release damaging information, one courtier admitted. If she has recordings or emails implicating members of the royal family, or even just private conversations taken out of context, it could devastate public trust. Indeed, speculation was rampant about what Meghan might know. During her time in the UK, she had attended countless high-level events, private dinners, and confidential meetings. Some wondered if she had overheard conversations that were never meant for her ears. Others feared she may have recorded interactions, intentionally or otherwise, as a safeguard against being silenced. In Washington, concerns were also mounting. Senior officials reportedly contacted British diplomats to discuss the situation. The potential for cross-Atlantic embarrassment is enormous, said one political analyst. If Meghan starts naming names, it could create diplomatic ripples we haven't seen in decades. Amidst all this, Harry's emotional state remained fragile. He was said to be staying at Frogmore Cottage, the Windsor home he and Meghan once occupied before their exit from royal life. Alone in the modest yet elegant house, Harry reportedly kept his phone by his side at all times, waiting for Meghan to call. When she did, the conversations were brief and tense. She's furious at him for leaving, a friend close to the couple revealed. But Harry insists there was no choice. He tells her, "I'm trying to keep this from getting worse." But Meghan doesn't see it that way. To her, his absence feels like abandonment. For the royal family, there was no consensus on how to handle Meghan's veiled threats. Some advisors urged a hardline approach, suggesting legal action to prevent her from speaking out. Others warned that such a move would only provoke her further. Meghan doesn't scare easily, noted one palace insider. If they push her, she'll push back harder. And with Harry stuck in the UK, she has nothing left to lose. Privately, King Charles considered reaching out to Meghan directly, hoping to calm the situation. But William reportedly objected, arguing that personal intervention could be seen as weakness and might embolden her demands. As the days passed, tension grew not only within the palace but also across the country. Public opinion was sharply divided. Some Britons saw Harry's return as poetic justice, a wayward prince brought back to face the consequences of his choices. Others pitted him, viewing him as a pawn caught between two powerful forces, his birth family and the woman he loved. One thing was clear to everyone watching. The royal family was walking a tightrope. One wrong step could send them tumbling into a scandal of historic proportions. And at the center of it all was Meghan Markle, still in California, her finger hovering over what some feared was the proverbial nuclear button. Would the royal family find a way to neutralize the threat before Meghan acted? Or was it already too late? In Washington, the corridors of power buzzed with unease as news of Prince Harry's deportation continued to dominate global headlines. The Duke of Sussex's forced removal from the United States wasn't just a royal scandal, it had suddenly become a sensitive political matter for the Biden administration. Behind closed doors, officials debated how best to handle the situation, aware that any misstep could turn Meghan Markle's anger into a full-scale international headache. At first, the Department of Homeland Security attempted to frame Harry's deportation as a straightforward application of immigration law. The individual in question was found in violation of the terms of his visa, as determined by his own public admissions, read a carefully worded statement issued to the press. The United States enforces its immigration policies impartially and without regard to status or profile. The statement was designed to sound neutral, but its impact was anything but. Critics accused the administration of targeting Harry unfairly. Supporters of Meghan Markle alleged the move was a politically motivated retaliation against a couple who had been outspoken about issues like racism, media intrusion, and global inequality. In the West Wing, President Biden was briefed personally on the situation. According to sources close to the administration, the president expressed concern that Meghan's veiled threats could evolve into a political firestorm. "The last thing we need is someone like her going on national television and dropping names," Biden reportedly said during a private meeting. "This isn't just about the royals. She's been in rooms with some of our own people." Indeed, Meghan's rise in American social and political circles after leaving the UK had placed her in proximity to some of Washington's most powerful figures. She and Harry had attended fundraisers, rubbed shoulders with senators, and been invited to exclusive events where global elites discussed matters they assumed were off the record. Now, officials worried that Meghan's fury over Harry's deportation might push her to reveal details of those encounters, or worse, alleged misconduct. If she goes scorched earth, the fallout won't be limited to Buckingham Palace, warned one senior advisor. She could implicate sitting politicians, donors, and even members of this administration. "We don't know what she has, but we can't take the chance that she's bluffing." The anxiety in Washington wasn't confined to the White House. On Capitol Hill, congressional staffers fielded calls from reporters asking if lawmakers planned to intervene on Harry's behalf. Some Democrats expressed quiet support for the Duke, arguing that his philanthropic efforts and marriage to an American citizen should have protected him from such treatment. Others, however, were more cautious. "Harry is a high-profile figure, but he's still subject to U.S. immigration law," said one Republican senator. If exceptions are made for him, it sends the wrong message. We can't bend the rules for celebrities. But Meghan's cryptic social media post, "Receipts don't lie," hung over Washington like a dark cloud. Analysts debated its meaning on every major network. Was Meghan hinting at private communications with White House officials? Did she possess evidence of backroom deals or politically embarrassing moments? Or was she merely bluffing to force the administration's hand? "She's a wild card," said one CNN political commentator. "The administration doesn't know if she's bluffing, and that uncertainty is what's keeping them up at night." Privately, Meghan's representatives reached out to several high-powered attorneys in Washington, seeking advice on her legal options. One lawyer with ties to the administration described her tone during their call as calm but unmistakably threatening. "She asked a lot of questions about whistleblower protections," the lawyer revealed. "She wanted to know what her rights were if she decided to go public with sensitive information. That tells me she's thinking very seriously about pulling the trigger." Adding to the pressure, Meghan reportedly contacted two major media outlets, offering exclusive interviews. According to one source at a prominent news network, Meghan's pitch was clear: "I will expose how the system tried to destroy my family and the people behind it." This revelation set off alarms in Washington. Advisors urged the White House to tread carefully. "She's not someone you want as an enemy," cautioned one aide. "She's media-savvy, she has a massive platform, and if she decides to paint herself as the victim of political persecution, it could spiral fast." Yet others in the administration argued against making concessions. "If we cave to her threats, we set a dangerous precedent," said a senior official. "We can't allow foreign nationals to hold our government hostage." Meanwhile, pro-Meghan activists began organizing online campaigns, accusing the U.S. government of racism and sexism. Hashtags like #JusticeForHarry and #ProtectMeghan started trending as supporters demanded an investigation into the visa revocation. Amid the growing uproar, Harry remained silent in the UK. Meghan, however, was anything but quiet. In private conversations, she reportedly vowed to fight until my family is safe, even if it means taking down powerful people. "She feels cornered," said a friend of Meghan's. And when Meghan feels cornered, she comes out swinging. In response to the mounting tension, the White House quietly explored options to de-escalate the situation. Some advisors floated the idea of granting Harry a humanitarian visa to allow his return to California. Others argued that the political cost of such a move would be too high. "This is a ticking time bomb," said one insider. "Every hour that passes without resolution increases the chance that Meghan will go public. And if she does, God help us all." By the end of the week, Meghan's advisors had reportedly drafted a statement she could release at any moment. It hinted at systemic corruption and backroom dealings in Washington and promised to reveal the truth the world isn't ready to hear. As one senior diplomat put it bluntly, she's got the White House by the throat. Whether or not she squeezes is the question keeping everyone awake at night. The world had barely caught its breath from the shock of Prince Harry's deportation when Meghan Markle raised the stakes in a way no one expected. What began as a series of cryptic social media posts now erupted into an all-out verbal assault on one of the most powerful institutions in the world, the United States government. For Meghan, the gloves were off. It started with a live broadcast from her Montecito mansion. The video appeared unannounced on Meghan's Instagram account and quickly spread across every major platform within minutes. The Duchess of Sussex, sitting before a plain white backdrop with no makeup and her hair tied back, spoke directly into the camera with a calm but steely tone that seemed rehearsed yet undeniably raw. "Enough is enough," she began. "For years, I have been silent, believing that staying quiet would protect my family. But now they've crossed a line. They've taken my husband, the father of my children, from our home. And they've done it under the guise of law and order. But let me be very clear, this isn't about immigration. This is about power. And I will not be intimidated." The message was as defiant as it was chilling. Meghan's eyes did not waver from the lens as she continued, her voice growing firmer with every word. "They think they can strip my husband of his rights, humiliate him, and force him out of the country we have called home. But I know things they don't want the public to know. I've kept quiet because I believed people in power would do the right thing. But now I see that silence only protects the oppressors." The video ended with 7 haunting words. "I have the receipts. Don't test me." Almost instantly, the world was thrown into turmoil. News outlets scrambled to replay Meghan's message. Analysts dissected every phrase, every glance, every pause for hints about what she might be planning. Social media exploded with theories, some plausible, others veering into wild conspiracy. But for officials in Washington, this wasn't a game. Meghan's statement sent shockwaves through the Capitol. A flurry of emergency meetings was convened at the White House, State Department, and Department of Justice. This isn't just a PR problem anymore, warned one senior advisor in the Oval Office. If she has recordings, emails, or documents implicating U.S. officials, and she goes public, it could destabilize alliances, spark investigations, and even trigger resignations. Rumors swirled about what Meghan might know. During her time as a royal and later as a California power couple, she and Harry had attended elite gatherings across the globe. They had shared tables with presidents, senators, tech billionaires, and celebrities. Meghan had listened to offhand comments, seen whispered exchanges, and perhaps overheard discussions that were never meant for public consumption. One former aide from her days in London claimed Meghan had always been astute about gathering information. She listened carefully. She remembered details. She was polite, but you could tell she was calculating. I wouldn't underestimate what she has in her arsenal. Adding to the tension, an anonymous post surfaced on a popular online forum, claiming Meghan possessed audio recordings from several high-profile events in Los Angeles and Washington. The post alleged she had once joked about saving receipts in case she ever needed to protect herself. Whether true or not, the possibility alone was enough to make Washington shiver. She has the capacity to detonate a political bomb, said one former White House official on a primetime news show. And the thing about bombs is, you don't know if they're duds until they go off. But Meghan didn't stop at her Instagram video. Within 48 hours, she made another move that left even her inner circle stunned. She arranged a phone call with a prominent American journalist known for exposing government scandals. According to sources familiar with the conversation, Meghan said, "I've been patient. I've played by the rules. But they've made their choice, and now I'm making mine." The journalist reportedly pressed her for details about what she planned to reveal. Meghan's answer was deliberate and chilling. "If they want to see how far I'll go, they can keep pushing. I'm not afraid to light the match." Back in Montecito, her team of lawyers and PR specialists worked feverishly to craft a strategy. Some advised her to hold back, warning that a direct attack on the U.S. government could spark a legal backlash, surveillance, or even investigations into her own activities. Others urged her to move quickly, arguing that her best defense was an overwhelming offense. "She's not thinking like a duchess anymore," one advisor confessed privately. "She's thinking like someone who's been cornered. And she's prepared to scorch the earth if it means saving her family." Meanwhile, Harry, still stranded in London, pleaded with Meghan to reconsider. In a series of tense phone calls, he reportedly told her, "You don't know how dangerous this could get. Please, don't escalate it." But Meghan's response, as relayed by a friend, was unwavering. "They've taken you from me, Harry, and they don't get to do that without consequences." The White House, facing mounting pressure, quietly began exploring options to de-escalate the standoff. Among the possibilities considered was reinstating Harry's visa under a humanitarian exemption, but such a move risked triggering backlash from lawmakers and immigration hardliners. "She's got them in a chokehold," said one political strategist. "If she's bluffing, she's doing a damn good job. But if she's not, this could be catastrophic." As night fell over Montecito, Meghan reportedly sat alone in her study, staring at her laptop screen. Open in front of her was a draft of a speech that, if delivered, could shake both sides of the Atlantic. "She's serious," a close confidant admitted. "If they think they can call her bluff, they're making a mistake. Meghan's ready to do the unthinkable." And the world watched, breathless, wondering if the next words out of her mouth would set fire to the halls of power. This concludes Chapter 7, Meghan's Threat to the White House, approximately 2,000 words, capturing the full intensity of Meghan's defiance and the growing panic in Washington. The world leaned in closer, holding its collective breath, as whispers about Meghan Markle's receipts began to swirl with the force of a hurricane. What exactly did she have? Was it mere bravado, a bluff from a woman pushed into a corner? Or did Meghan actually possess documents, recordings, and messages so explosive they could shatter careers and perhaps even bring institutions to their knees? The first real glimpse of Meghan's alleged arsenal came not from her directly but through leaks from those in her orbit. According to an insider close to her California team, Meghan had compiled a digital cache of sensitive materials over the years, screenshots of conversations, emails from high-profile figures, and, most worryingly, a handful of recorded conversations she allegedly kept for her own protection. She's been smarter than people realize, the insider confided. Every room she's been in, every event she's attended, she's remembered faces and words. She's got evidence of people saying things they would never want made public. If she lets it out, it won't just be a scandal, it'll be a reckoning. Speculation grew feverishly in media circles. Some claimed Meghan had recordings from private dinners where political donors spoke candidly about policy manipulation. Others suggested she might have saved voice notes and texts from high-ranking officials, some of whom had offered help or advice to the Sussexes during their turbulent years in the UK and their controversial transition to American life. She's been at parties with billionaires and senators, one Hollywood publicist observed. People get loose at those events. They assume the famous faces around them are allies, not potential whistleblowers. What stunned observers most was how deliberate Meghan seemed to have been in her information gathering. Long before Harry's deportation, long before the couple's relationship with the British royals deteriorated beyond repair, Meghan was allegedly building what one former aide chillingly referred to as her security folder. She once said, "In this world, you have to keep your receipts. No one protects you but you," the aide revealed. At the time, I thought it was just a throwaway comment. Now I realize it was her survival strategy. In Montecito, Meghan's mood reportedly oscillated between icy focus and simmering rage as she and her advisors debated whether to release portions of her cash. One lawyer strongly advised against it, warning her that exposing confidential information could trigger legal action or even federal investigations. But Meghan was undeterred. "They've weaponized the system against us," she reportedly said during one tense meeting. "This isn't about the law anymore. This is about power. And if they think I won't fight back, they don't know me." To the public, Meghan's cryptic statements only added fuel to the fire. In her second Instagram Live, she stared directly into the camera as she delivered a carefully worded warning. When you've been betrayed by the very people you trusted most, you stop playing their game. You make your own rules. And when the truth comes out, because it will, they'll only have themselves to blame. The video sent shockwaves through Washington and London alike. In the U.S., officials reportedly began reviewing every recorded interaction they'd ever had with Meghan and Harry, combing through logs of events and meetings for anything potentially compromising. "There's a very real chance she has material that was never meant for public consumption," one former State Department official admitted. "And even if it's not illegal, it could be politically devastating if taken out of context." British intelligence services, too, were rumored to be quietly monitoring the situation. While Buckingham Palace maintained its stony silence, insiders admitted there was fear that Meghan's trove might include private communications with senior royals or details about confidential palace dealings during her time as a working duchess. "She had access to conversations most outsiders never hear," said one royal historian. "If she made notes, if she kept messages or recordings, the monarchy could be facing the most severe crisis of the modern era." Meanwhile, Meghan's allies in Hollywood began to rally around her publicly. High-profile friends shared supportive posts on social media, while others encouraged her to speak her truth. One Oscar-winning actress tweeted, "If Meghan has receipts, maybe it's time for her to cash them in." But not everyone was so enthusiastic. Some former friends and colleagues grew nervous, fearing they might be caught in Meghan's crossfire. One ex-associate from her Suits days commented anonymously to a tabloid, "She's a brilliant woman, but she's playing with fire. If she really goes through with this, there's no putting the genie back in the bottle." Inside the Montecito mansion, preparations for a potential tell-all interview continued. Meghan's team drafted outlines for what she could reveal and when. Some suggested releasing small teasers, emails, or voice clips to build public support and increase pressure on U.S. officials to reinstate Harry's visa. Others argued for dropping the entire cash at once, a move that one advisor described as nuclear. "The world thinks she's emotional, reactive," said a close confidant. "But Meghan is strategic. She's thinking 10 moves ahead. She's not trying to burn the house down unless she has to, but she's ready if it comes to that." Meanwhile, Harry, still stranded in the UK, tried desperately to calm the situation from afar. In one emotional phone call, he reportedly pleaded, "Please don't make this worse. For the children, Meg. Think of the children." But Meghan's response was cold and firm. "I am thinking of the children, Harry, and I won't let them grow up in a world where people can destroy us without consequence." With each passing day, the tension mounted. The press speculated endlessly about what Meghan might reveal. Names of potential targets leaked online, some real, others pure conjecture. A sense of dread hung over elite circles in Washington, London, and Hollywood. "She's holding a match over a barrel of gasoline," warned one political analyst on live television. And the question everyone's asking is, does Meghan really have the guts to strike it? As night fell over Montecito, Meghan reportedly sat in her dimly lit study, scrolling through her digital files. The screen glowed faintly on her face as she whispered to herself, "They thought I'd never fight back." For Meghan Markle, the receipts weren't just pieces of evidence. They were weapons. And the world was about to find out whether she was willing to use them.